What's up, guys? Hopefully, just a quick talk about, spiritual awakening and what's going on in the world today. A lot of people, I want to preface this by saying that, I'm not trying to prop myself up as someone who's figured it out, because what I'm going to tell you is that you never figure it out. Knowing yourself is a lifelong, endless journey that only ends when you die, maybe. And if you think you know yourself and you think you got it figured out, you are dead already. Spiritually, you're dead. So keep that in mind as I say this, because I'm not trying to prop myself up as somebody who knows more than anybody or is better than anybody, because I get it. I went through the same awakening process. But a lot of people have woken up to, or they think they've woken up to, New World Order and the government conspiracies and the that thing I'm not allowed to talk about or I'll get banned, that happened that started in 2020. And the conspiracy against you and your mind and your soul is so deep and vast that you're just dipping your tiptoes in the water. If you've got that figured out, you know what I mean? And the worst thing you can do is just to think you've got it figured out and you're okay, and just go back to watching football and drinking beer and going about your daily life as it ever was, because real spiritual awake, first of all, even if you were really awake, just to that, it would upheave your life completely. You would lose all your friends. It would jeopardize your status in your employment, as it did with me. People don't like you when you're awake. They don't like you, and they will bias. They'll have bias against you. They will judge you for that, not for your performance or how good you were or how useful you were to whatever company you work for. They will be like, that guy's a freaking loon. I'm not promoting him. I'm not on his side. It is complete social alienation to really, really understand. And that's the biggest form of mind control there is. That's why a lot of you fell for the obvious psyop in 2020, you just went along with it because you were so afraid of everybody hating you, or people not liking you, or people thinking you were mean or inconsiderate, that you just didn't want to rock the boat. You didn't want to upset people. You didn't want people to think bad of you. You didn't want to lose friends and family. And I've seen, in the beginning, I saw so many people that just knew it was nonsense. But then as the whole psyop went on, next thing you know, they're putting masks on, and what is it? 8 and 10 people got the that thing you're not supposed to talk about that they made everybody take, and now everybody's dying from. You know what I mean? 8 and 10. You're gonna tell me those people knew it was nonsense. They just didn't want to rock the boat. They didn't want to lose their job. They didn't want to lose their friends. They wanted to go on cruises, and they wanted to just be able to do things. And that's how they get you. They just pick at and just take a little bit at a time. And I did it too. A lot of my life, I just put up with it because I didn't understand what was at stake. And then, once I understood what was at stake, I drew the line this far, no further. And, but even, that's not even that is ankle deep into the waters of true spiritual awakening and, shaking off, just unplugging from this matrix that you're plugged into that has total control over your mind, even though you don't realize it. You gotta understand, at least starting in the 20th century, if not before, the social engineers literally bragged that they were going to eliminate the human soul in people. They were going to create what is essentially, you've seen the NPC meme. They bragged they were going to do that, and they did it. And we make fun of those people, but they don't realize that, most people who make fun of the NPCs don't realize that they're also NPCs. They're just NPCs about the things that they agree on, and everybody else is NPCs about the things that they don't agree with. So there's this false dichotomy, this false paradigm here where, two NPCs are, claiming the other side is NPC, just because they're NPCs about different things, and they create that divide and conquer game. Like, that's when you look at everything that Trump's really doing that affects your life, he's doing jack shit. But he's triggering the liberals, and that's what's most important to the conservatives, is that the liberals hate it. And then when the liberals in power, like, the liberals do the most horrible, disgusting thing, like all of this transgenderism and all of this this child molesting and child mutilation that went on, that they celebrated, putting putting tampons in men's bathrooms in high schools, and all of this. They know, anybody in their soul, if they have one, knows how just maniacal that is. But it triggered the conservatives, it triggered the culture warriors, and that's all they cared about. That's all they give a shit about. That's all anybody on any left-right paradigm gives a shit about, is what upsets the other side. They don't care about truth. They don't care about what's moral. And there is objective morality, and it's very, very simple. Just don't violate people's consent. Anything that violates your consent is immoral, and that's it. End of list. So, it's not pornography, it's not prostitution, it's not drinking drugs and alcohol and promiscuous sex. Does what you're doing violate the consent of another person? End of list. That's morality. That is objective, natural law morality. But anyway, so nobody cares about the truth, and again, and they're all NPCs. They're all soulless, just golems, basically. And that's what they said they were going to do. They were going to give you medication and injections, and they were going to mess with the food, and they were going to turn education against you. And they said they were going to do it. They're not doing it. They did it. They did it. So, and if you do not realize this in your soul, what soul you have left, then you cannot even begin. You don't even see the walls around you that you need to get out of, much less, do the work, the very, very difficult shadow work, the deep dive, dark, getting into the darkness of yourself. You got to do that. And if you're not, then you will be easily controlled. And, they might push another pandemic on you, which they won't. And you'll be like, I'm not falling for it this time, but let's just do something else. They'll blow a nuke off somewhere and blame it on Iran, and then you'll be like, fully lockstep, but put the flags on your front door and say we need to go to war with Iran. They'll do it. There'll be something like that. It'll be something different. Some other psyop, some other false flag, some other black op. They've got a whole bag of them. And the problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic is the government's daily bread. How can we create ripples and across social paradigms that will cause people to support things they would otherwise never want anything to do with? That's what they do. And it's very, very, and like, if you don't understand dark occult mind control, which is basically what I'm describing, with the whole, getting rid of the souls in people, because I didn't understand this when the Epstein scandal came out in 2019, late 2019. Everybody, it just turned into a meme and everybody laughed about it, so they really didn't get it. But everybody knew he didn't kill himself, and everybody knew why. And then, of course, nothing was done about it. No one was held accountable. And, no one's gone to jail except for Ghislaine, the sacrificial lamb. But none of the clients are in prison. The Israeli Mossad honeypot has not been exposed. That's the biggest reason why you'll never hear about it, because they were both Israeli Mossad agents, and their job was to compromise politicians and corporate leaders so that they could be blackmailed to do whatever they wanted to do. That's why you've got all of this woke ideology and all the corporations like Harley Davidson going woke. Are you fucking kidding me? Like John Deere going woke. Are you fucking kidding me? Because they got videos of them doing terrible things. And if they don't toe the line, then that gets released and they get destroyed. That's what the purpose of the Epstein honeypot was. That's the whole purpose of it, among other things. I mean, he was, he had that Skywalker Ranch where he was like trying to, I don't know, where he was like just trying to create like genetically superior beings or some shit. They're all eugenicists, baby. And this is all, and eugenics is a huge part of all of this. If you don't understand eugenics, then you're not going to understand why the food is poisoned, why the air is poisoned, why the water is poisoned. But I thought at that time that people were finally starting to figure out the way the world works. And I was like, man, you're finally waking up. You're finally getting it. This is such a great time. And then they dropped that thing. And everybody started freaking out. And everybody started hating each other and, banging pots and pans out there outside their doors and yelling at people who were outside. And then all of the other terrible things that people did to each other and to themselves. And it wasn't a small percentage of the population. It was the overwhelming majority. I live in what you would consider a very anti-woke, community, and I would go to Walmart every day because I wanted to show my face. I wanted to put it in people's face that, that I wasn't afraid and that they had nothing to be afraid of. And, there was times where there would be hundreds of people in the store and I would be the only one. Like literally, I would walk around the store looking for other people who wouldn't have a mask on. And it was just me. And the fear on people's face and the, you can see it today. Like we laugh at people who still wear a mask. But next time you see a person wearing a mask, look into their eyes. And you can see that something terrible happened to that person in their life that they have not resolved and rectified. They are traumatized and frightened, and they never recovered. So, and then something like that psyop, that experience, only deepened their fear and their trauma and their paranoia and their hatred of other people. So, when you look at their eyes, they're all frightened to death. They're scared to death. And don't laugh at those people. They've been through something terribly traumatic in their life, as most of us have, really. That's the thing. You got to resolve this trauma. If you don't, that's the more extreme end of the spectrum, but you end up wearing a mask for no reason. Even now, I mean, there's no reason. There was never a reason, but really there's no reason now. People are still doing it. And that's how you end up like that, is you don't resolve your trauma. And everybody has it. And if you think that, you figured out Anthony Fauci and you figured out the things that I've probably already said enough, just in pure innuendo for them to ban this video. But if you might have figured that out, but if you haven't done the deep dive into your own trauma, then you're probably going to fall for some kind of other psyop again. And you're probably going to be very, very easily manipulated, especially if you're voting and you're hating liberals or hating conservatives and you're laughing at them and you're just trying to do stuff. Like if you buy a Cybertruck, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Like Tim Pool bought a Cybertruck and said he wants to buy another Cybertruck and program it to self-drive and follow him everywhere as he goes to own the liberals. And like, what kind of idiot do you have to be? Like, you have to be completely brain dead to think that that's something to do. Like, why would you do that for? And it's all it is a whole society full of emotionally stunted adolescents who never made it out of grade school emotionally, and they're just they're just fucking with each other. And it's so depraved and so immature, and it's just really, really difficult to watch. And it's really difficult for me. It's actually part of my own awakening process to have to actually witness that, and then not be like, and just not like just sneer at them and think and hate these people for being so stupid. I mean, I understand it, I get it. So understanding it and getting it, I have to constantly be on watch myself just to keep myself in check, not to judge these people. So anyway, I'm not trying to tell you that I know better than you, or that I am better than you. But spiritual awakening is a very, 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 very I don't call it traumatic, but because you're rectifying trauma, but it is very, very uncomfortable. And the reason why you're not doing it is because it's uncomfortable. If it was easy, then everybody would just do it. And if it was easy, there's a reason it's not easy. It's because it's traumatic, and your brain has, has tried to, push those memories into the back of your mind so that it doesn't, so that you can function. But you can't function really. You can't have normal relationships. You can't deal with the world as it is until you make the unconscious conscious, as Carl Jung said. So anyway, you really need to, if you want to be awake in this society, in this world, in this existence, then it is never-ending work. It's very uncomfortable. You cannot think you've come to a discovery about yourself or the world and think that's the end-all be-all of it. It is because the world and your unconscious, unresolved trauma will come back and kick the living shit out of you every single time. And you will call it fate, as Jung said. It will direct your life, and you will call it fate, and you will suffer, and the world will suffer. And that's another thing to close out. One of the things that people often get caught up in as part of their spiritual journey is thinking that it's their responsibility to wake other people up, and it's absolutely not. And it sounds selfish, and it sounds like you're just neglecting people and letting them. You have like they say, the truth. You have a responsibility to tell it, and you kind of do. But in that respect, I would encourage you to be a lighthouse and not a lifeboat. Let them come to you. Set the example, shine the light, but continue working on yourself, because that's the only thing that you're responsible for. You're not here to wake other people up. You're here to wake yourself up. And you cannot wake other people up. You can't. I used to think I've woken people up, and people, people have messaged me and said, "Oh my God, you've woken me up," but it's just, the reality is I still see them going about the things that you don't do when you were awake. I'm not judging them, just saying, if you were awake, you would not be doing these things. You know some things that I taught you, or that I exposed you to, but you have not processed that information properly, and you have not applied the knowledge. And it's very difficult, like I said, because it'll tear your life apart. And that's kind of what Jesus said when he said, he came to bring the sword, and he came to separate, a man from his wife, a husband from a wife, and he came to tear families apart, essentially, and because the truth is more important, and people who don't love the truth will hate you for embodying it. It's just the way it is. But you have to ask yourself, are you here for this world, or are you here for the cultivation of your immortal soul? And that's the choice that I've made, and I've got an endless amount on my plate to work on. So I've got my own issues, and then the issues just keep coming, because you are completely bombarded in this. Even if you don't watch TV or the news or anything like that, the energy, the vibration of this matrix, and the loosh that people put out in their trauma and their anxiety and fear and hatred and anger, it can drain you if you're not aware. And if you have to be vigilant and have discernment at all times. Because if you're not paying attention, it'll get into you and you won't even notice it, and you'll just find out you're acting like a complete lunatic, or thinking like a complete lunatic, and or just angry or worked up and just not in the right vibration, and you're like, wow, how did that happen? Because you're not paying attention. So anyway, I hope this helps. I hope that if not today, one day, if you haven't already, you decide that the truth is more important than your family, your prestige, your social status, your job. None of that comes with you when you die. And if there's a God, one day you might have to stand in front of him and tell him why you did the things, tell him what you did, and tell him why you did the things you did or didn't do the things you did. And I think that's a lot more important than what people think about you in this very short existence. So anyway, I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.